Hey, good morning, MMW family. You are welcome this morning. I'm too excited. I'm so excited that you guys are joining me this morning. So, wherever you're joining me from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good day. I know you are watching this morning. I'm so thrilled, and like I will always say on here, life is good, God is good, and situations are awesome. When we go through a situation and challenges in life, guess what? They make you unbeatable, unbreakable, and man, you are undefeatable. This is the African story, and I'm excited that you are joining me today. So, hey, you guys are welcome. Let's do this thing together. And I'm going to KISS, keep it simple and stupid, and we will be out of here just in time. So today we are talking about removing the labels. Removing the labels. I am sure that there is somebody in this room who can identify to either being labeled by people or you labeling yourself. If you can't, I'll put my hands up. I can clearly identify so many times where I've been labeled by people and I have to find my way through it. But you know what? Good news is you don't have to do it alone. Okay? Let me tell you something about labeling that you don't know. Labeling is something that costs you a lot if you're not careful. You've got to be very careful because once you start believing the labels that you are giving yourself and what others are giving you, you will start to live it. And when you start living it, it starts to manifest, okay? Another thing you have to also believe is that what you choose to believe is very important because that's what you will see and that's what you will start to produce. So let's talk about a few labels this morning. Or maybe you feel like, oh, you know what? I've never been labeled in my life and I've never labeled myself. Okay, let me give you a few things maybe you should be or you might be able to identify with. Have you ever been labeled as being arrogant? Have you ever been labeled as being too stubborn? Have you ever been labeled as being a rejected thing or a rejected person, or that you are a failure or a loser, or that you are a loner, or that you are ugly, your head is too big, your eyes are too big, and when your smile is not good, your smile is never mind. Have you ever been labeled as being ugly? Or have you ever been labeled as, not being a marriage material? Or that you are not a keeper due to a failed marriage or a relationship? Have you ever been labeled as a commoner? Have you ever been labeled that you have a medical condition that can never get better? Or that you will always be drug and alcohol, you'll always depend on drug and alcohol for survival? Have you ever been labeled as not being a good father or a good mother? Or being too skinny or too fat? Or not being good enough, okay? Have you ever been labeled as a mistake? Have you ever been labeled as a curse or being abandoned or as an abandoned person? Or have you ever been labeled as negative, that everywhere you go, negativity, confusion, and conflict follows you? Or have you ever labeled yourself or people labeled you as being too smart or too perfect or know too much, or you feel too important of yourself, Whatever label that you choose or whatever label that people have given you or you've given yourself, you've got to understand that it comes with a reaction. It comes with a reaction because once you believe it, you start to act it and it starts to manifest. So I don't know about you, but I can clearly identify to one or two labels or even more that people have given me or I've given myself. Let's say, for example, you label yourself as being too perfect, when you label yourself as being too perfect in times of issues, when there are problems in your relationships, it makes it harder for you to sit back and say, you know what, maybe I am the problem, or maybe I could have done things better, because you think you're perfect, you can't go wrong. And if you are that person, it destroys the relationships around you, because you know what, you're too important, you're too perfect, there is nothing wrong with you, you don't have issues, you don't have problems. It makes it very harder for you to come to the table where you see yourself as a problem, because you feel like you're too perfect, there is nothing wrong with you. Or if you're someone who, someone label you that not being good enough, you always try to give too much into a relationship because you're seeking validation from other people. You're seeking validation from people to tell you that, oh, you're good enough, so it does comes with a reaction. All right, every time you believe in any sort of label, let's say for example you're somebody who believes to yourself that I'm too stubborn, it makes it very hard for you to back down when it comes to a fight, or if it comes to conflict, because you feel like, what, I am too stubborn, I don't back down very easily. It destroys something that is so little that can be contained. It blows out of proportion only because you refuse to come to a place of conclusion where you can humble yourself and come to a solution. So whatever labeling that people have labeled you with, or you've labeled yourself with, there is a reaction and it affects things around you. So today, why don't you take one step into taking the labels off and stop feeling it, okay? So how can you remove your labels? You can first of all today believe that you are God's own creation and that you live under his banner of grace. Okay, you've got to believe today that you are God's creation and you live under his banner of grace. Once you see yourself as being the product of God's meditated portal, and that you are under his banner of grace, it makes it very easy for you to take the label off and to freely see yourself, see people, and see things the way God has created them. And remember, you could be somebody who today you're saying to yourself that, oh, today is July, and July is the 6th month of the year, and yes, still nothing has happened to me. Believe me, there is 6 more months to go, and that is plenty of time. That is plenty of time for God to remove you from grass to grace and change your story forever. So whatever label that people has given you or people have given you, you have a responsibility as an individual. As with everything, we have a responsibility. We have a part to play. You have a responsibility to believe it. Give in. You have a responsibility to believe that labeling that you've given yourself or that label that people have labeled you. You have the responsibility to believe it, give in, and start the reaction, or reject it, pull out, live freely, and see you the way God sees you. And you see, sometimes it's not, especially when it comes to people labeling themselves, it makes you feel important, when you label yourself like, I am this, I am that. These are things that we are all guilty of because we want to feel a sense of importance that, when I give myself that name, it's going to add some sort of value to me. It's going to make people identify to me better. It's going to make me feel like, I am on top of my game or I have control over my life. But that's not what it is at all. You've got to take off that label that you've given yourself and what the label that people have given you that you have now believed and now it's starting to manifest. You've got to take it off. And the only way you can do that is to believe that you are God's own creation. It's to believe that you live under the banner of grace or under God's banner of grace. Because when you believe that it is by grace that you are existing, that it is by grace that you have what you have, it makes you remove the labels. And when those labels are off, it makes you to come to a place of humbleness where you don't care about the labels you have. You don't care about the name that you've created for yourself. You don't care about what people think you are. You care about what God thinks you are. And you start to manifest in what God has created for you and where God is taking you to. So today, challenge yourself. Take a step and remove the label and trust that God is going to take you to a place where you've never thought you'll be.